9 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So how's the weather there in New York?
It's really cold here. When I got on, when I was talking to Babu, I already had a sweatshirt on because it was so cold, but now it's getting warm. It's really cold in New York. We go in Celsius. It's 27. Now it's probably about 20. Let me see what it is now. It was 27 about 2 hours ago. It's 27 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's Fahrenheit.
That's below freezing. That's below freezing.
Exactly.
32 is freezing.
I also it's pretty getting cold also here. So,
what's it like over there?
No, it is. I think it should be room temperature for us. It's pretty much room temperature.
Okay, so it's pleasant.
Yes, it's pleasant, but it's a little bit cold compared to summer for us.
Okay, for you, but you're spoiled, right? You're spoiled because you have warm weather normally.
Yes. I think majority of our team members are here. It's a lot of them are here. Looking forward to hear from you. So over to.
Good morning, sir. Madam, good morning. Welcome to SNS Group of Institution. I am Dr. Pandian, Principal of S College of Technology. Warm welcome to you, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. It is our pleasure to have you as a guest for today's speech. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored to be your guest. And just tell me when you want me to start, okay? I'll whenever you're ready, I will start. Just somebody tell me when you want me to start.
Yes. Also, we have quite diversified group today this morning. We have also a small student group also been invited, and also all the leaders and directors of all the institution, and also we have HR director also who recently joined with us, and design thinking team was also with us.
Hello.
And a few alumni who work with us is also with us. Who work part of the design thinking is also with us. So a mixture of age group and also the portfolio is also been invited. So it helps us to carry SNS forward.
Well, I'm honored that you have invited so many people, and also have been able to get so many people at the same time. And this is also this talk. For your different institutions, this talk would be very interesting for many of your students. I mean, since you only have a small group of students here, if you would like me to ever do it for your students, I would be happy to speak to your students as well. I mean, I realize you have some students here, but I think a lot of you are from the leadership, from the higher level. This, by the way, for the design thinking team, this isn't going to be a design thinking talk. Towards the end, there'll be some components that are close to the designing your life, but most of this isn't going to be design. It's going to be more of a talk rather than a workshop, just to prepare you.
Got it. Over to Dr. Babu. You can start.
Sure. Thank you. Shrijit and the MC desk, over to you for the starting.
Yes, sir. Jagadish?
Yes, sir.
Should I start?
So good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to our guest honor. I would like to invite you all on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I'm Jagdish on behalf of SNS Group of Institutions. I welcome you all for today's webinar. Since 24 years, SNS has set the standard of excellence as a renowned institution in the field of education, a group with maximum autonomous institutions and the first Indian institute to implement design thinking in education, and I'm glad to be a part of it. SNS Group of Institutions, a group with 10 educational institutions consisting of more than 10,000 students enrolled in different fields. I would like to introduce our management, our chairman, Dr. S.N. Subramaniam, our correspondent, Rajalakshmi, our technical director, Dr. S. Nalin Vimal Kumar, native design thinker, Dr. Gnanasegaran, director, Department of Management, Dr. Babu Devasenabadi, Director, Center for Creativity. I would also like to introduce the principals, directors, and HODs of various departments from SNS Group of Institutions. Now, I would like to call upon our technical director, Dr. S. Nalin Vimal Kumar, native design thinker, to deliver the presidential address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jagdish. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Babu and the students of B-SPINE, the experiential MBA business program, for organizing this wonderful session, this wonderful morning, right after the new year being started. This is the first program which we are organizing it. And also a great pleasure to welcome every years and also younger members of SNS fraternity for this session. And it is truly a privilege to welcome Dr. Joann Halpern for this session. And as a part of HPI, she been a driving member for design thinking and also designing the human minds in and around New York City. It is a very welcoming message she been always throwing out to address our students fraternity, but being the pandemic situation, we have brought the leadership community to buy the concept of this, and then we can try to radiate it towards the rest of the other members. With no due delays, my team is geared up to hear your wonderful talk and also keep us more inspired, keep us more globally connected, and also expand our thought process across the globe, and also serve the student community all together. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Jagdish,
thank you, Nal.
Just a second, there will be a small intro about Dr. Joann to our team before we welcome her to start up with.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Jennifer to welcome the gathering and introduce our speaker. Over to you, Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer from SNS B-SPINE. Welcomes you to our webinar entitled Going Outside of Your Comfort Zone and Global Networking. And I would like to introduce the speaker, Dr. Joann Halpern, Director of Hasso Plattner Institute, New York, USA, an adjunct professor in the Department of Applied Statistics, Social Science, and Humanities at New York University. Prior to joining HPI, she was the founding director of the German Center for Research and Innovation. As the Global Director of Academic and Student Affairs and a Professor of International Education, she spearheaded the campus internationalization process and was involved in revising the global college curriculum from 1996 to 2001. She was the director of Haas University in Wernigerode, Germany, where she created over 20 university exchange programs, taught undergraduates, and co-developed dual degree programs in business administration and tourism management. She also co-founded Knowledge Transfer Beyond Boundaries, an NGO with projects in Cameroon, Nigeria, Yemen, and Antigua. Halpern received her BA from Dartmouth College, her MA from Harvard University, and her PhD from New York University. She has taught courses in global studies, intercultural communication, international education, business English, and German in the US. She is the recipient of Harvard University Award for Distinction in Teaching as well as Scholarship. I don't want to take any more of your time. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Joann Halpern, ma'am. Now, the session is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Thank you for inviting me, Nalin. And thank you all for your wonderful presentations, introductions, and for joining us today. So I'm going to talk about building your global career. I'm from as was mentioned, I'm from the Hasso Plattner Institute in New York. The Hasso Plattner Institute's headquarters is in Potsdam in Germany, which is right next to Berlin. And we do digital engineering. And some of you might wonder, what is digital engineering? It's a larger area which includes cybersecurity, human-computer interaction, algorithm engineering, computer graphics, data science, and a number of other areas, enterprise platform engineering, internet technologies. We are also the hub of design thinking in Europe. Hasso Plattner was the person who founded the School of Design Thinking at Stanford, which is where design thinking started. And then a few years later, he said, we need design thinking in Europe. And we have design thinking coaching certificates, design thinking training. And I know that you're very well known for design thinking in India. So, I found out about SNS through the Global Design Thinking Association. And so now I'm going to start my talk. So in this talk, I'm going to start talking about working outside your comfort zone, building a fixed versus growth mindset, networking internationally, building your personal board of directors, and using international experience to enhance your career. So when we think about global careers, in careers outside of our home country, outside of our home city, we're going to be going outside of our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is the area where we're doing things that we know how to do well. And we'll feel comfortable doing it. We don't get nervous. We're not really scared. It's our everyday things that we do that we feel comfortable doing. But our learning, the most of our learning occurs outside of that comfort zone. The more we work in our learning zone, the bigger the yellow becomes. So if for example, if you feel uncomfortable speaking in public, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So let's say if you don't feel comfortable speaking in public, then try giving just a little speech at somebody's birthday party, or just try small things. And the more you do it, the bigger that yellow becomes. And then there's the learning zone. Okay, so or maybe you don't feel comfortable in writing an article for a newspaper. You know what? Maybe you write your first article, it doesn't get accepted, but then maybe the second time or the third time it does. So each time you do it, you maybe will improve. And then there's the panic zone. The panic zone is where your heart's beating fast, you might be sweating, it's very hard to be in the panic zone. You don't want to be in the panic zone a lot of the time. It's not healthy, but sometimes, every once in a while, when you're in the panic zone, you're able to do things you never thought you could do because your adrenaline lets you do that. So there are times when it's okay to be in the panic zone because that's also part of the learning zone, but it's the extreme of the learning zone. And this is me in the panic zone. Yes, that's me bungee jumping in New Zealand. I don't do this regularly, but every once in a while, I like to put myself in the panic zone. And here's the positive side. Look at that beautiful view. So sometimes being in the panic zone is actually, there can be positive sides of it. It also shakes things up a little bit. I'm not telling you to go bungee jumping, but I'm telling you in your day-to-day, sometimes you don't want to do it a lot, but sometimes it's okay. And now I'm going to go to fixed versus growth mindset. This is a concept that was created by a woman named Carol Dweck. She's a professor at Stanford, and she wrote a book, and the book is called Mindset. And she said that people with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence, talents, and abilities are fixed traits, and they're unlikely to change. And people with this fixed mindset believe that talent leads to success and effort and hard work is not required. And examples of this are, for example, attitudes toward mathematics. Think about when you were in the school, before you went to university, there are always people say, oh, I'm bad at mathematics, right? And then they don't try. Or foreign languages, and you say, oh, I'm not good at foreign language. And you think, oh, she's just really good at foreign language, or she's just good at mathematics naturally, or public speaking or technology. And so people with a fixed mindset, they don't try. They just think, oh, they're good at it. They're natural. I'm not good at it. And they don't try. But the growth mindset thinks differently. So people with a fixed mindset think I'm either good at it or I'm not. Or when I'm frustrated, I give up. Or my abilities determine everything. Or when I fail, I'm no good. So when they fail at something, they think, oh, I'm a bad person. This is a fixed mindset way of thinking. Or they say, I don't like to be challenged. They just like to do things that are easy for them. Or they think you can't change your intelligence. Or if you succeed, I feel threatened. Okay, so when other people succeed, they're not even happy at their success. They feel threatened. Now, most of us are not either fixed or growth. So the growth is the other way. Most of us are somewhere in between, and some things were fixed and some things were growth. And people with a growth mindset believe that talents and abilities can be developed over time through effort, through hard work, through experience, and embracing challenges. And they believe that effort and hard work affects their success. So they put in extra time. And that extra time and work leads to higher achievement. Okay. And Michael Jordan, I think most of you have heard of Michael Jordan. He was one of the best basketball players in the world. And he didn't even make his high school basketball team. When he was in school, he didn't even get on the team, but he kept working harder and harder, and he became one of the best in the world. Another idea is crossword puzzles. If you always do the easy ones and just do well and get everything right, that would be a fixed mindset. But if you try the harder ones, you do the easy, medium, difficult, that's more of a growth mindset way of thinking. So people with a growth mindset say, I can learn anything I want to. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. And my effort and my attitude determine everything. And when I fail, I'm not a bad person. When I fail, I learn, or I want to challenge myself. Or if you succeed, I'm inspired. So this is a growth mindset way of thinking. And as I said, most of us are either fixed or not one or the other. We're somewhere in the spectrum between. And in some areas, you might be more fixed, and some you might have more growth. And so people with a growth mindset, if you look on the left side, you see the squares that have red in them. This is a summary of what I just said. But people with a growth mindset, when they get feedback and criticism, they don't think badly. They think, oh, I'm learning. But people with a fixed mindset, if you look on the right, they're unable to handle criticism. So they feel like if somebody criticizes them or gives them feedback, they think it's about their person, they're a bad person. And it's not about that. So this is like the main difference that Carol Dweck talks about in her book. So now we're going to move into networking. So who needs to network? We all need to network, and we all do it, whether we realize it or not, we all network. And here are some examples. People that are entering the workforce for the first time, or people that are looking for internships, they need to network. You need a letter of recommendation from a professor. If you're going to graduate school, you're doing a postdoc, if you're going for a job, you might need a letter of recommendation. In New York, if you want to move into a new apartment, you often need a letter of recommendation. Well, you need a network for that. If you're running for a position, whether it's a political position, it's a position at your university. If you want to become, certain in the government group, or sometimes you need to have a good network, because sometimes it's about people who know you and like you, they're going to vote for you. Also, planning your next career move. Or if you want to be internationally mobile in your career, is your network only in India? If you want to be internationally mobile, it's good to have a network outside of your own country. And startups need to have a good network, because startups need investors. They need people to use their product, to buy their product, to test their product. So they also need a big network. So why do we want to develop networks? Because when we have a good network, we have enhanced visibility. And enhanced visibility results in invitations to speak on panels. For those of you in this talk who are students, your universities often have panels of alumni. They have panels of students. And so they might, if they know you, if you talk with your professors and you get in touch with them, you get invited to speak on panels. And people who are in the leadership of universities as well, you want to get invited to speak at conferences. And if people want to invite you to speak at conferences, if they don't know you, they're not going to invite you. Also, to contribute a journal or magazine article or a book chapter. Okay, those of you in this audience who are academics, you want to be published. You want to publish, right? People often are editors of books, but they need to invite people to write the book chapters. So I'm writing a book chapter right now. And it's because somebody in my network invited me to contribute to a book chapter. Also, serving on committees. If you are part of networks, you get invited to serve on committees, or collaborating with peers. Those are some examples. Also, when you develop networks, you get exposure to new ideas and different perspectives, up-to-date information, people who can support you in your career, provide introductions, a safety net. You want to be introductions are really important, because introductions get you jobs. And a lot of jobs out there are not even in the newspapers or online. A lot of the jobs are insider jobs, where you get the jobs because you know the right people. So this is really important, to have good networks to do that. Also, a safety net. If you lose your job, there's a lot of people losing their jobs during COVID. Well, if you have a good safety net, you might be able to help. One of my friends worked for a company that went bankrupt, Lehman Brothers. Okay, he worked for Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. He was very successful Lehman Brothers, but they went bankrupt. He used his university alumni connections to help him get his next job. It took him a while, but that is really important. And so think about the people at your universities, they're part of your network. Also in your networks, it's really important to have emotional support through friendships and volunteer work. So when you have a lot of you might not realize, but your friends are part of your network. And these friends, especially during COVID, when a lot of us were alone in our houses, those friends are really important, even if they're online, when you're having a bad day, just to talk to. Also, volunteer work. I don't know how much all of you volunteer, but when you volunteer for something that's important to you, you can develop a very strong network of people with often have similar values to you. Also in your networks, you can get support in daily activities. For example, I'm in New York. My computer support team is in Germany. They're 6 hours later than me. So after 11 o'clock in the morning, I cannot get any computer support from Germany. So I need to have a good network here in New York. Also, if you're moving from one place to another, you might need support from your network. Or if you have a good network, you're going to find out about events that are happening in your city that you can attend, or events happening online. People let you know. You're not going to find everything yourself. So sometimes the insider events. So when I was in Berlin recently, not recently, about 2 years ago, there was a Google event in Berlin, and I got to go because I knew somebody in Berlin who said, "Oh, let's come. The Google's opening up an office in Berlin." So, and also you learned about new apps. So these are all examples of importance of networks, and it really, in general, enhances the quality of your life. Okay, and this might be new to a lot of you. This idea of building your board of directors. So if you think about building your board of directors, so companies have boards of directors, right? And what do the boards of directors do? They help the companies move forward, right? They help them with strategy. They help them with different things. They help them maybe with public relations. They help them get into the newspapers, for example, or they help them, move forward with their goals, with their mission. Well, think of yourself as a company. Okay, so for me, Joann Halpern Incorporated is my company, right? I'm my company. Who can help me go forward with my life, with my career? So think about that for yourself. So these are some of the areas that are part of your board of directors. So who can help you in your life with career support? Who can help you with emotional support? So think about that. A lot of us are just very career focused, right? We study when we're high school, we go to university, and we think about only our career. But it's really important to have emotional support, whether it's from friends or family, colleagues, but you want to have that because you need that support in addition to just your work. Also, financial advice. If you're going to have a global career, there are a lot of things that you don't need to know, like what about tax issues? What about when you retire? If you're working in the United States and you go back to India after you retire, how does that work? And if you have a good network of other people that have had global careers, they can give you that financial advice. Also, access to other professionals. If you want to change jobs, or you want to get a job after you graduate, or if you're, many of you are in the university leadership, but you want to go to another university, how can you access other professionals? And a lot of that access comes when you go into conferences and you meet other people. So that's really important also. And lifestyle advice. So lifestyle advice could be health advice, for example. Maybe you need someone to help you every day, with exercise, or somebody to motivate you. Sometimes there are apps out there you can get people that work with other people, but you might need people to help you with lifestyle advice, and that a lot of that could be health, for example. Other might be religion. Maybe that's one of my friends in Germany. Her board of directors, through her religion, she was able to get a babysitter for her child. Another person that I know in Germany, she was able to get a job through somebody in her church. So, you never know that what these boards of directors, people can help you. Skills training. Okay, that's another thing. Who on your board can help you with skills training? Look at what are jobs you're going to look for in the future, and who can help you gain those skills. And maybe you can get some of them online, but sometimes it's also with people that are on your board. And mentorship. And the other thing with mentorship is not only that you can get mentors to help you, but you can mentor others. And some of you younger people, some of you are students here listening in, and the students in the room, you might be thinking, whom can I mentor? But you know what? You're older than people that are coming into the university. You can help younger students. You can mentor them. And those of you who are professors, you can mentor younger people that are just starting as professors to help them learn about the university and give them tips about, from all different things like, the library or the cafeteria or academics, like what's really important. Is teaching more important than research? Is research more important, for this people that are get up for tenure? So we can all mentor. There are always people that are younger than us that are going through what we're going through, and we can help them, but we can also go and have people mentor us. So these are some of the areas about thinking about yourself. Who are the people around you that can help you move forward with your career and with your life? Because your life and your career are not separate. They're intertwined. It's a holistic idea. But when you're building your board of directors, you really have to think strategically. Just like a company, when it builds its board of directors or advisory board, it's thinking, what is my mission as a company? Well, you should think about yourself. What's your mission and vision? And it doesn't matter if you're the head of the university or you're like below that, you're the president or you're the dean or you're a professor or you're a doctoral student or a postdoc, whatever you are, is still important at different stages of your life. What is your mission and your vision? And it's going to change as your life moves forward. But where are you now? Where do you want to go? And these are questions that are also asked when you're in interviews. Where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? What kind of career do you want? But also, what kind of life do you want? And sometimes we forget the last question, what kind of life do you want? And that's also really important to consider. And when you're building your board of directors, you want a well-rounded board. You want a range of expertise, not only your specialty, but other areas, because people will broaden your thinking that way. And they'll help you realize sometimes we grow up as a child and our parent or mother, maybe our mother's a doctor and our father's an engineer, and that's all we think about. But there are a lot of other careers out there, and we need to think about those careers too. And we need people on our board that are going to help us think more broadly, because maybe there's something else out there we never thought of that might be even better for us. And you want to think about your board not only in person, but virtual, especially these days with COVID. You're going to have people on your board that you don't get to see in person. So both of those are important. And for me, my father, he died very young, but he's still on my board. He's part of my virtual board because he's a very ethical person. So I always think when I have to have ethical decisions, what would my father have said in this situation? And also on your board, you want people that are going to be honest with you, that aren't going to judge you. And they're not just going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. You want people that are going to have a different perspective, and they're not afraid to say so. You don't want people that are always going to tell you how wonderful you are. You want that criticism as well. And if you have a growth mindset, you'll understand that criticism is going to help you. So also in your board, you want people that you can open up to. That people that know more than you in key areas and that are better than you at something. And the last bullet point is, for me, the most important. You want people on your board who think big, and they're going to push you to reach for more than you imagine possible. Because those are the people. I'll give you an example. For me, there was something called the American Academy in Berlin. And one of the people on my board said, Joann, you should apply for that job. And I thought, me? Are you kidding? That's so much beyond me. But, and the person that got that, I didn't apply, but the person that got that job used to be the president of Stanford University in the United States. That's how high level that job was. But my person on my board told me I should apply. It was above my level, but what it helped me do was apply for jobs that were higher level than what I was looking for, So she pushed me to go higher. And you need people on your board that are going to push you to do things that are much more than you think you can do. And especially women. A lot of women don't push, they don't think they're as good enough. And there's even research out there that says that when there's a job opening, women will only apply if they fit like 7 of the 10 skills, and men will apply when they fit like 3 or 4 of the skills. I don't know, the numbers aren't exact, but the idea is that, women, you need to really go out there and push yourself to even if you're not perfect, just try and apply. Now, I'm not going to go through this entire thing, but this is the same idea as as your personal board of directors, but this is different categories of networks. So we have career networks, we have personal networks, leisure networks. These are all networks in our free time. What do we do in our free time? Those people are also in our network. Geographic networks. And this is a really interesting one. For those of you who, if you're interested in a global career, when I travel, I have a network organized based on location. So I know when I go to Germany, I know in which cities which people are in my network. When I'm traveling, if I go to India, I don't know a lot of people in India. I know about 70 or 80 people in India right now. And so I have a list of those people in my thing, so that if I go to India, if it depends on what city I'm going to, I'll say, okay, Bangalore. I know, I have several people in Bangalore that I know. So if I go to Bangalore, I have that list. I won't be able to see all of them. I usually don't have that much time, but I can pick a few people. So it's good to organize your networks in different ways so that when you travel, you can remember. So if you have to go to a conference, you can see those people. There are also virtual networks. Other can be any, you can think about it. It could be religion. It could be spirituality, subject-specific networks, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And selective networks, like, for example, I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's a scholarship called the Fulbright, and the Fulbright alumni, that's a very selective network, or your university alumni could be an example of a selective network, or Rotary alumni, Rotary members could be a selective network. So when you're developing your network, it's really important to think about your purpose. So your purpose is really driven by your personal and your professional development needs. But also when you're thinking about your purpose, what gives you meaning in life? What makes you feel like you're, what's meaningful to you? What are your values? And is what you're doing, ask yourself now, is what you're doing with your job, with your work, does that give you meaning? Like for educators, I feel very important for me, I teach at New York University, and I'm as an educator, I feel I'm helping students that are studying what I actually did with their careers. And that's really important for me. I'm giving them skills that they'll need for their careers. But ask yourselves, is what you're doing meaningful to you? We can't always have everything because we need to earn money, but we also want to see, and if we can't do it with our work because we need to earn money, then can we do it on the side? Because having meaning in your life is really important. Also, analyze your network systematically. Who are your stakeholders? So for those of you who don't know what stakeholders are so for example, for a company or for a university, let's do university since most of you are here from the university. The stakeholders of the university are the people whose work, who your work affects. So the stakeholders of a university would be the students, the professors, the administrators, but also the community around the university. Those are examples of stakeholders. Also, stakeholders are whose work affects you. So people's work that affects the university so stakeholders go both ways. And then what is the current status of your network? Where are the gaps? Is your network all women, more women than men? Is it more men than women? Is it only people in India? Is it only people in the US? So where is your network and where are the gaps? Because think about where you want to go with your career and where are those gaps that you need to fill to get there. And I told you before, I'm going to talk about subject-specific networks. This is an example. I don't know how many of you are in the life sciences. This is a neuroscientist. And this is a network of, she works in the area of olfaction, which is smell. But in her research, she needs electron microscopy, electrophysiology. She works with different animals, snakes and rats. And so this is very in depth. You don't need to do this for your network. But often if you want to connect other people, part of your work isn't just getting connected yourself, but you can connect other people. And so for me, that's one of the reasons I got my current job is because I have this very big network. And in my last job, I connected so many people that I was able to, when I wanted to look for another job, people connected me. So that's really helpful. Also, think about what the best network is for your particular goals. So what kinds of individuals do you want to contact? How are you going to contact them? Okay, are you going to contact them through LinkedIn? Are you going to contact them in other areas of social media? How do you connect with these people? Do you connect with them at conferences? Also, approach key people in your network and let them help you build your network. So don't be afraid to ask people to introduce you to other people. I love when people ask me. I can't always find somebody to connect them to, but when people ask me, I have no problem with that. If you want to go on to LinkedIn with me, that's fine. But just let me know where you met me so that you can tell me, oh yeah, I'll LinkedIn with you. And if you need help connecting, I will do my best. I can't promise, but I will try to help you. Also, will participation in specific events provide access to key individuals? Because you can strategize and decide when I first started working for the German Center for Research and Innovation, which is a German government organization, I strategically calculated which event should I attend that will help me build this center. So, and I went to events like 3 or 4 nights a week and tried to connect and build a network. And that helped us as a center. So you think strategically. Also, you want to nurture or maintain your network, which means how do you keep your network updated? When you get a new position, when you publish a book or an article, let people know. I'm writing a book right now on global careers. And when I'm ready to publish, I'm going to tell people because I want them to read my book. And also, it's not just want them to read my book. The people that are my mentors will be happy. They'll be excited. Also, introduce individuals to relevant contacts. You introduce them, they're going to introduce you. And also, I don't just introduce people just so that they'll help me later. I do it because it makes me feel good. Like some of you might have heard of runner's high. When you go running, you feel better with the endorphins. Well, there's something called helper's high, where you really feel good about helping others. So think about that. You can really help younger people, for example. I love to help my students, connect them to help them. And sometimes they get jobs from that. Also, send articles. If you've written an article, send it to your professors. If you have professors, even those of you who are already deans, sometimes the people that were your mentors earlier on in your life, they might appreciate if you send them articles, if they're relevant also. You don't want to just send articles if they're not. Also, meet for coffee when conferences were live. Now they're not live anymore. Well, some of them are, but meeting for coffee during a conference. If you're at a conference and if you want to schedule a meeting, I recommend you schedule a meeting before you get to the conference. There are a lot of platforms out there now for conferences that you can meet the people, but you schedule meetings before the conference because once conferences start, people get too busy. And of course, use social media because social media, and I recommend LinkedIn for you because LinkedIn is used globally. And so some final key questions. So you want to ask, who are my key contacts? Which individuals, groups, or institutions do I need to contact and how? How do I maintain or nurture those contacts? And what is the role of social media in this process? And just some takeaways from my own career. Embrace working outside your comfort zone. This is where a lot of the learning occurs. Volunteer in an area that you're passionate about. If you have time, if you can make time to volunteer, do it in an area you're passionate about and give 100%. Because if you're volunteering and giving 20%, those people, if you're going to meet them probably again in your life, one, that's not going to not great. But second, they can write letters of recommendation for you. So, and you can also build friendships. You might even find your partner, your future partner when you're volunteering. Find a mentor, but also mentor others. And develop meaningful relationships when networking. When you network, it's not just about getting a business card. It's about developing a deeper relationship. And it's not. And when I go to, I'll give you one example. So I have a friend named John, and I met John at a networking reception after an event we went to. And John, John from his work was not relevant for me for my work, but I wanted to know John as a person. And that relationship has been really strong, and we've helped each other throughout our lives, including in the free time. Like he got me onto the bus with the tennis players to the United States Open tennis tournament. I mean, that's just a leisure time activity, but also he was able to get my institution into a magazine that he had for his event, and that got us visibility with investors. So you never know. get to know them as people, not just about your career, but getting to know people as people. And if you leave an event and you have one strong relationship with somebody, that's better than 20 business cards where you're never going to see the person again. Also, keep in touch with key contacts. It can be virtually or in person. And finally, I'm not going to go through my entire career. This isn't even my entire career, but just to give you some ideas, my first internship when I was in college, I was very shy in college, at university. And so my first internship, I wanted to go to Germany because I wanted to improve my German. And believe it or not, I was too shy to even ask my professors if they knew anyone. I asked my mother, who was a scientist. So that the key here is your family is also part of your network, and they can help you. Your parents, your cousins, your family's stuck with you, right? So you have your parents, your cousins, your aunts and your uncles, they're all part of your network. So don't hesitate to ask them to support you. And after that, because my German got so good in when I was in there in the internship, I was able to get a teaching assistantship at Dartmouth College when I got back. And then I had a different scholarship in Germany after that. And that's another thing I want to tell you is, especially those of you who are students, scholarships outside of your country can often lead to jobs in those countries. Some scholarships require you to come back, but others will allow you to stay. So, you can get into a country through a scholarship and then get a position there. So think about that. Those are the students in the audience. And then, and I had different scholarships, and then I went to Harvard, and while I was a student at Harvard, I also taught German to undergraduate students. And then I got different scholarships to go back to. I wanted to go back to the eastern part of Germany because the wall had fallen when I was in Germany, the Berlin Wall, and I wanted to go back. So I'm not going to go into all of this. But another thing, in 2003, if you can see in the blue, I co-founded an NGO with other alumni of the Fulbright Association. So alumni of my scholarship and we started an NGO. So there's all these different ways that you can work with people to through your networks. And finally, the last thing I'm talking about networking is when I was running the German Center for Research and Innovation, I helped hundreds of people build their own networks. And one of the people that I helped was from SAP, the software company. And she was coming from Silicon Valley to New York. And she didn't know anyone in New York. And she came to me, somebody from SAP said, talk to Joann. So she came to my office. Her name was Anne. And I connected her in the next week or two with about 50 people in my network. And she really appreciated that. And then from there, she could build her own network. And then when I was looking for a job about 6 years later or 5 years later, I said, Anne, if you hear anything, let me know. Because I had helped her and I asked her and she helped me. And the job I have now was because she connected me with the person that's now my boss. So helping others, I wasn't doing it for her to help me. I did it because I felt good about helping her. But then she helped me too. So never hurts to help other people. So that's basically the general career thing. But I wanted to just go into a couple of things. For those of you who are in design thinking, this comes from the Designing Your Life book, which is built on design thinking. And they talk about, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans talk about something called dysfunctional beliefs. And one dysfunctional belief is I need to figure out my best possible life, make a plan, and then execute it. But the reframe is there are multiple great lives and plans within me, and I get to choose which one to build. So the idea here is that we don't just have one career and one life. We can have multiple careers within our life. And this is what they talk about, something called Odyssey Plans. And they talk about 3 different Odyssey Plans to create the next 5 years of your life. And the Odyssey Plan number 1 is on the left. What would the next 5 years of your life look like if you are like the Joann Halpern I know I am or say I am today? That's the first Odyssey Plan. And then you talk about the next 5 years, what would they look like? But then what would the next 5 years look like if what you do today no longer exists? So let's say for those, higher education no longer exists. What would your next 5 years look like? And the third plan is if money or image were no object. So if you didn't have to worry about money, if you didn't have to worry about what other people thought about your job or what you do, if you didn't have to worry about being in a certain place because of your family, and you could go anywhere, live anywhere, and didn't have to worry about money and didn't have to worry about what other people thought about you, what would the next 5 years look like? And those are the 3 different plans that we create. This is actually a different workshop. This is a real workshop, not a talk that I do called Designing Your Life. It's a completely different thing. And these are at the end, we create these Odyssey plans. And this is what the Odyssey plan looks like. So these are each year. So 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. And you fill those in. And each year you have a major milestone. So each year you have something big has to happen each year. And you have a professional and you make a bucket list. Like, what are the things you want to accomplish before you die? And also you want to have one really, really wild, crazy plan. So, and then you have resources. Like, you look at this at the bottom of your Odyssey plan. Do you actually have the resources, the time, money, skill to do this plan? Do you like your plan? Do you feel confident that this plan works? And is it coherent? Does it align with your values and what your view of life is, what your view of work is? And this is an example. This isn't my plan, but this is a plan of one of my friends. This is her plan for the next 5 years. And as you see, each year she has something big. So like one thing is like she wants to go to Italy in the summer. That's like her milestone. She wants to publish a book in her 2nd year. In the 3rd year, she wants to get married. That's what that picture on the top is. She wants to get married. And the big thing here is she wants to do it, like have a company, IDEO.org. Like she wants to really create a company. And so these are some examples of this is her plan. And then this is my plan. This is my 5-year plan. I want to write a book. I'm actually started writing a book about global careers. And I'd like to do Zoom talks. And then, I'm hoping that in 2020, this year, at the end of this year, I'd like my book to be published. Maybe I can give a TED talk, maybe travel to Iceland. Actually, I did that last summer. I had written this last year and I actually did something ahead of time. So these are just some of the things. And then this digital photo course came with this idea of what happens if higher education doesn't exist? What would I love to do? I would love to, do photography around the world and maybe teach photography. So these are some of the different things that I would do in my 5-year plan. And so that's part of this Designing Your Life. But that's a whole different workshop. So this is my contact information. And now I wanted to leave a little time for questions. So it's 1:15. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me now. And thank you for listening. And thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Excellent, Joann. Thanks a lot. It's been a very quick, a lot of information. We are able to actually enjoy the entire thought process. I would like to invite our team members to have more active interaction.
Particularly, I would like to comment on the way that she delivered the talk, as well as the English pronunciation is. I think we are very comfortable with UK English, I suppose, than the American English. It's been perfect. I enjoyed the entire thing.
Oh, you can understand my English? That's good. I hope it wasn't too fast, because in my family, if you don't speak fast, then you don't get to say anything. So we all speak very quickly. So I hope I wasn't speaking too quickly.
Good morning, John. Your presentation was very excellent. And our wishes for your book to get published this year. And good luck for your 5 years plan.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of takeaways from your thought-provoking talk: to develop the key contacts, to develop meaningful relationships outside of the comfort zone, strategies to develop the network. We understand it more of human touch, being better in man management through social media. It is very nice to listen to you. And in the state of COVID pandemic, the entire globe is suffering emotional setbacks, and particularly students are no exceptions to it. Think big and will push you to reach for more than you imagine possible. As you said, the moment you hear such inspirational talks, they are taken to a higher and elevated level of inspiration. But after that, when they are subjected to the environmental positions, they are a little coming back. They do not have strategic plans as to how to set a mission or accomplish the mission. What advice would you give for the students for their revival?
So what I would recommend to the students is something we call informational interviews. And informational interviews are talking to people that already have careers and asking them about their careers. And people love to talk about themselves, right? We like to talk about ourselves. And if you ask people, and I know students, you have to go outside your comfort zones. And, that's really hard for most students. I always be scared to do that when I was a student, but you have to push yourself because the first time you might even get rejected, but each time you try, you get more, your comfort zone gets bigger, and you have to learn that some people won't answer you, but ask them about their careers. And people say, just, can I talk to you for 20 minutes about your career? And it might turn into 30 because people get excited about their career, but that's a good way to start. And that's also a networking technique, because then at the end you can say, oh, that was really interesting. Can you introduce me to someone else? Like, you can ask them and you can build your network that way. And building that network can help you get into the career mode, because I know you've been out of that for so long now, for 2 years. But that's one strategy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Pandian, College of Technology. Dr. Joann, you've done a wonderful presentation. We could understand all the strategies. I have one query. Many people are always with the fixed mindset. They are very reluctant to come out from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. How to motivate the people to come out from the growth to growth mindset? Thank you.
That's a really, really good question, right? Because yes, many of us have fixed mindsets, but sometimes we have fixed mindsets in some areas and growth mindsets in other areas. And if you can find some people that have fixed mindsets, but find one of the areas where they do have a growth mindset, that's really, or if you find how usually in some area of their lives, they had to really work hard to get there. And if you can find that and help them remember the experience that they had of learning and the challenge, because, it also goes going outside your comfort zone, right? It relates very closely to that, is they have to be pushed outside their comfort zone. And as professors, to help them, maybe you can give them, rewards or encouragement. I mean, sometimes as professors, we have a lot of, I don't know if power is the right word. We have a lot. We're able to make students feel, give them confidence. And sometimes that staying in the fixed mindset is they don't have that confidence. And if we can encourage them, maybe they didn't get a bad grade in a paper, you can still, maybe they get a certain grade, but you give them comments that encourage them to do certain things to improve. But you're right. It's hard because sometimes it's, people think I'm bad at languages, or I'm bad at math. But if you can give them practice in languages to help them get better, and then they see that improvement. So maybe as a professor, you can give them, let's say it's mathematics, you can give them easier problems that help them get to the harder problems, because they need to have success. And if they don't have that success, they're going to stay back in the fixed mindset. So if we can figure out ways to make them feel success, that helps. But it's not easy.
Thank you.
Really, really good question. Really good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
This is Kavita, Principal Nursing College. Really a wonderful presentation, madam. You delivered a very good message today. We are so grateful to you for being a part of this event. You have given a lot of inputs to us. Thanks for the day.
Oh, thank you so much. That makes me feel great. I'm glad to hear that.
Good morning, madam. Good morning, one and all present here.
Good morning.
I would like to thank your management for providing such a useful session today. Thank you, madam. Thank you for your valuable inputs. By the way, I am Dr. Kalaivani, Head Department of Computer Technology, Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science. Thank you so much, ma'am. Today I have given a lot of inputs. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I hope that you can share it with your students too. Maybe that'll help. That's what I'm hoping also, is you can pass this on. Maybe your students can, can learn from it as well.
A small input, Joann. We started to actually, one of the initiatives that we started to do is make every student to be part of LinkedIn.
Oh, good.
More than the Instagram and Facebook, we started to create an account for every student to have a LinkedIn account, and also they should start to come up with like a story about themselves to connect with people around themselves and also around the world. So I think your topic actually came right on time.
Oh, great. And, and with LinkedIn, it's really important also. Sometimes they'll try to link in and people will not respond. And you know what? That's okay. They should still try. It's like going outside your comfort zone. And, if any of you wants to link in with me, fine. Just mention that thank you for the talk. You don't have to write a lot, but just so I know where you're coming from. Because I don't like just link in with everybody in the world. But if you were here, then that's fine. But the students too, they're going to be afraid sometimes. Oh, can I ask that person? Students who are here, you can link in with me. Just tell me where you came from, right? So that I know. But please, that's about going outside your comfort zone. But you have to do it. And when you try to link in, you can even say, interest, like, hey, I'm really interested in your work. Or another thing I do, a tip that I'll give you is sometimes you want to connect with your professors for the students, right? Or those of you who are academics, you go to a conference and at least I am, I don't know, maybe you're not, but I was often too shy, like, oh, that talk was so good, but I'm too shy to go up to talk to the speaker, right? I don't know. I'm like that, right? Especially the World Nobel laureates. Here's a trick that I use. I often pick something out from the talk and I say, you mentioned this and I'm really interested. Can you talk a little more about that? That's one of my strategies, right? So that you have something to talk to them about. Or you can say, hey, I saw you mentioned this in your talk. I'm doing research on this too. And this is something that I'm thinking about. What do you think about this? So those are some ways to connect with people at conferences or even online. Sometimes you have online talks and then after you have a smaller chat. But, I'm sure a lot of us are like that. I'm like that. You think I'm extroverted? I'm introverted. Believe it or not, I'm introverted. I just love to teach and stuff. But I'm also very shy. And I did that with Angela Merkel. I went up to her. I found something to talk to her about, the former chancellor of Germany. But I was scared, but so you have to find things sometimes. You have to go out. But for me, I was like, one time I was in the chancellery with Angela Merkel. And I said, Joann, you have to ask a question. It's the only time in your life. And I was so scared to ask the question, but I did. And it was like, and the next time it's going to be easier. I'm not going to be with Merkel so that's why you have to just ask that question, because the next time it's more part of the comfort zone. So that's my inspire. I'm trying to inspire you, to do.
That's a good trick. That's a good trick, yeah. And also good rightful message.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
But any other questions? Yes.
I'm Shinja. It was really happy to hear that think big and come out of comfort zone. These two actually the essence of our essence also, as I have learned, and that will be the key which I would like to give it to my children.
Yeah.
Think big and come out of your comfort zone.
And you know what she does? One of the things I did, I gave a talk about that in New York, about the comfort zone and other things. And a mother and her child were there. It was a high school student and the mother. And they said they put that picture on the refrigerator, the comfort zone learning. And they said, every day we try to do one thing outside our comfort zone. They try every day. And I said, that's great. That's really wonderful. So I do a lot of the things I do are outside my comfort zone. But I've never spoken to a group in India before. This is the first time, and you're so wonderful as an audience. I'm really excited. So maybe I'll do it again if anybody's interested. It's great. So I've been to India, but I've never given a talk in India. So this is my first.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hi. Very good morning.
Good morning. Actually, it's 11:30 at night here, but you're good morning to you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Lalit Misra. I recently joined SNS group. I have been trained on design thinking in Germany.
At HPI?
And It was the company is sponsored, so it was taught by one of the professor, Dr. Sabine. She was also on the board of Stanford. And listening to you has really been very insightful and enriching. The learning curve never stops. And the real success, it lies with the execution. The things what you taught, it's universal. It's like growth mindset, network. All these things are very universal reality, and we all know actually. And the success, how far we go in our life, it all depends upon what we know and execute it, practice it on daily basis.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for really insightful and enriching, thought-provoking ideas. It was really wonderful.
Thank you. And also you mentioned design thinking. One of the things in design thinking that also applies here, we talk about fail fast, fail forward in design thinking, like fail early, fail often. And this idea of failing, and I think somebody else asked this question with growth and fixed and growth mindset. Failing is okay, even though our universities and our schools don't show that. If we fail and we learn from the failures, that's really, really important. And in the startup, in entrepreneurship, in the United States at least, if you haven't failed, that's not good. People want to see that you failed, because if you fail, you learn. And so failure is okay. Of course, in the schools, it's not okay, in the university, but ideally, you really want to learn from your failures. And also, you mentioned design thinking. I do a workshop, which is more interactive. This isn't as interactive as most, but my workshop is on designing your life. And we use design thinking foundation. And then we use the design thinking to design your life. And at the end, what I showed you at the end with the 3 Odyssey plans, we move towards that so people can read it. But we talk about also empathy. So you know about empathy from design thinking. In designing your life, instead of empathizing with the user of a product, you empathize with yourself. So we teach people to understand themselves better so that they can better design their lives, their careers, and their lives. So that's a different workshop. That's takes over like 3 hours or so. It's a longer workshop, but that's where you have like group work and people to discuss. It's really fun, but that needs more time. But
It was really very short. It was really a very short brief, but very thought provocative. Some of the ideas what you shared, it was really a thought provocative. We can start.
I'm glad that thank you. I'm glad that you think that it helped you. It was useful.
And I would like to add a point here. We and Mr. Lalit was actually talking about having rightful mentors and rightful advisory boards. And today you actually brought that topic. It is very coincidental that you brought the board of directors and advisory board and other topics as well. So the time is actually favoring and linking us right on time.
Oh, great. Perfect. So that links with what you're talking about. Yeah, and it's a personal advisory board, right? Like and if you have a personal advisory board with people that are from different areas, then they make you think bigger. Than like we think, okay, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer. But if you have a board of directors, they might be from biology and you're from engineering, and then you might have a biology product within your engineering. So they make you more innovative and more creative. So it's really good to have that board around you and not just be with your own colleagues, because a lot of times when you're only with your colleagues and only with your family, you think in one way. Whereas if you have people from outside, they're going to make you think in all these different ways.
It expands your thought process, and also be as your title says, it goes outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. You said it even better than I did, actually. That was great.
Jagdish, if you want to ask a question, please proceed.
So we have a couple of questions from student side too, sir. So,
Joann, can we allow the students to pose a few questions now?
Of course.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Jagdish, over to you.
Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. I'm Lanti from MBA B-SPINE. I have a question that how can I be good at networking?
How can you be good at networking? So, okay, well, there's a lot of things that networking requires. One is you have a tough outer skin. That means like you have to be okay if not everybody accepts you. Okay, that's one thing, right? Because you're going to get rejected sometimes. That's life. But each time, you'll get stronger because you're going to go outside your comfort zone. 2, join LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn is really important. Because if you go on LinkedIn, you're going to be able to develop a network. And you can link in with me. Just when you link in, go to message and say, thank you for your talk or whatever, then I'll know that you were in my talk. So 3, when you go to meet people, go to events. Like now it's really hard because, of COVID. So I don't think there are probably a lot of things going on. But if COVID is over one of these days and we're actually allowed to go out and meet people again, even though people are meeting in New York, some people, but some of us are, okay. Anyway, when you meet people, try to ask them about themselves. And don't always think that a lot of times people think it's manipulative. Like people think, oh, I'm using them. It's not using them. If you're getting to know them as a person and ask them also, try to see how you can help them. If you talk to them, let them talk about themselves first, and then you can talk about yourself and see also, sometimes you'll be able to support them. And that's also how you build a relationship. And it doesn't always have to be about your career networking. It can be just about getting to know people as friends and seeing how you can help each other as friends, as people, not just as career. So if you don't, and other thing, as I said earlier, ask people to do informational interviews. Like if you see people that are doing things that look interesting, and it might not be your area, say, do you mind, if I could talk to you about your career for 20 minutes, and make sure if you do that to write a thank you email afterwards, thanking them for taking the time to speak with you. But and you know what, one of my former colleagues, she got her job that way. She asked for an informational interview, and about 5 months later they had a job opening, and they remembered her, and they wrote to her. They said, hey, do you remember that interview? We'd like you to work for us. So that's another way to get it, for doing informational interviews. And also go to events. Look at events that are going on when they go on, and attend. And you can find, I don't know, Eventbrite has a lot of those. They often say, what events are in your area. And now it'll be online events, but you know what? You can still do online events and talk to people. Sometimes they have networking within the online events. So does that help you a little bit? Hope that helps.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. And if you also, another thing to answer your question, if you need help, like if you're interested in connecting with a certain kind of person, you can connect with me at LinkedIn or by email, and just say, Joann, you talking to me about networking. I'm interested in meeting somebody that does this. I mean, I have a network of a lot of people, like over 5,000 or 6,000, I don't know. And, maybe somebody in that network might be interested in talking to you. I could try. I can't promise, but I would be happy to try. At least that's kind of networking too. Just ask professors.
I totally appreciate that you could do it for our students.
Of course. It's part of my helper's high. I get happy when I help people.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
My name is Niranjan Krishna. Hello, ma'am. Sorry for the connectivity problem. You have mentioned about how to overcome the comfort zone. Because I'm inspired about your conversation, because I'm also a comfort zone guy, and I'm afraid to break out my comfort zone. And I want to ask you a question, ma'am. What is your first great fear, and have you overcome that? I think it might help us.
What's my greatest fear? Okay, well, before I do that, I want to say to you, you just went and asked a question, which is already probably going outside your comfort zone, right? I don't know, maybe it's not, but like just that you asked a question already, that's like an already step. So what's my biggest fear? Oh, wow. One of my fears is identity theft, because somebody tried to steal my identity. So that's a big fear I have. My other fears, wow. So yeah, identity theft is not maybe a good example, but that's something that I fear, because I know people were trying to get my identity recently. I guess I have something called Imposter Syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But like I often get put in situations where I feel like they're going to find out that I'm a fraud. Like I'm asked to do things sometimes that I feel like I'm not qualified to do. Like I was at the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum in New York, not the one in Davos, in New York. And I was invited to speak about, what was I talking about? Something about the internet, like data science. And I'm like, I'm really not qualified to talk about that. And they said, no, you have to do it. And the guy next to me said that he felt like an imposter. And he was from Microsoft. And I was sitting there like, you're the imposter? I didn't say it. He said it. But like I'm often in panels and my biggest fear is people find that I'm a fraud. Like people find like she doesn't know what she's talking about. That's a big fear that I have because I often have to do things that I'm not qualified to do. And I tell people before, but now I've learned that what I have the skill to do is I know how to do research. So what usually happens when I'm on those panels, I've done more research than all the experts on the panel because they're there as experts. I had to speak at the Canadian consulate on cybersecurity. I'm not a cybersecurity. HPI, the Hasso Plattner Institute where I work, is world cybersecurity experts. But I'm not a professor of cybersecurity. I was not hired for my cybersecurity skills. I was hired because I have a good network. I was hired because I can help them with their visibility, etc. So that's my fear was I was on this, but I did so much research on cybersecurity and had all these stories that people they invited me to come back. So I guess we have to know that we can do if we don't know something, we have to prepare 10 times more than everybody else. And that's what I can do. I can work really hard to prepare to not be a fraud. But I still have that fear. Like I would have dreams before, like, oh my God, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. But I usually tell the organizer, are you sure? I usually tell them, like, we want you. So they usually know more than I do, especially women. We often think that we're not as good as we are. And so those women in the audience, I've learned to say yes when people ask me to speak because they usually know more than I do. And I'll do a lot more research to prepare, especially when I don't know. So that's my advice. That's something that I'm afraid of, being seen as a fraud for doing something.
Thanks, ma'am. That's really inspiring. And I have another question. Ma'am. You showed your 5 years plan, ma'am. And what is your first 5 years plan, ma'am?
My first what?
First 5 years plan. Very first. You started there.
I can't, the connection's bad. I can't.
Can I help with that? He was asking, you might have had several 5-year plans. What was your first 5-year plan? When did you start it? So
I kind of showed you my 5-year plan. So my first 5-year plan is to write a book. Actually, I did a Designing Your Life workshop, and that's where I got. So my first 5-year plan was to write in the beginning, I wanted to start writing a book. But before I started writing, I listened to TED Talks on writing a book. I connected with publishers. I talked with people that had been writing books before because I wanted to see, can I do that? I had written articles, but I had never written a book. And that was part of it. And then part of my 5-year plan was also to travel. So I had, I want to travel to Iceland. I actually did that this summer when the COVID rate was low. I went to Iceland. Like I'd always wanted to do that. And then there was some other parts of the plan where, I could try to get it back on, but I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to do it. You want me to show you my 5-year plan? Let's see if I can get it back. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it back, but, I'll just try to remember. So also I wanted to, in my third 5-year, one of the things was spend half a year teaching in India. That was part of my 5-year plan. I wanted to do, that was part of taking a half a year off and going to India and teach because I thought that would be really exciting, really different from anything I've ever done.
You're most welcome to do that. You can fill it this year if you prefer to.
Oh, I can come to India and teach.
Yeah.
So that was part of my 5-year plan is to spend a half a year teaching in India. And then also my book was my book, publish the book. Then I could do TED Talk on the book. And then I could do a book tour around the world, doing, talks about my book and global careers. And then I wanted to also create a summer program for kids that don't have the money to go abroad to spend the summer in another country. And create a program where they could go abroad and get the funding to do that. And then, and use it also for research to see how it changed them, and then maybe write an article about that, and so that it would encourage other people to support kids with funding so that they could go abroad. And because it changes people's lives to live in another country. And it helps them go outside their comfort zone. And so that idea of helping people go abroad and spending time and living with a host family and preparing them, of course, before they go, and then preparing them when they come back. Because re-entry is also really hard when you go abroad and then you come back. For any of you who has lived abroad and got returned, I lived in Germany for 6 years and I came back. It was really, really hard to do. I don't know if anybody else has had that, but because you think
probably it's a German effect.
I don't know. It's like when you go abroad, you're prepared that's going to be different. But when you come home, you think you're going home. But you know what? Coming home is harder because your expectations are different from reality. So anyway, that was a whole nother issue. But yeah, I don't know if were we asking? Do we have more questions? I kind of forgot where we were.
Yes, Professor.
I answered that correctly. He was asking about your 5-year plan so that he could draw inspirations from you. And yes.
Oh yeah. So my 5-year plan was to write a book, which was write a book, and then and then one of the things is I wanted to travel. Also, I wanted to take a digital photography course so that I could do better digital photography when I'm traveling. One of my plans was also to do that, to learn digital. If for example, higher education was destroyed, because I told you one of the 5-year plans is if what you do now disappears from Earth, then what would you do? And mine was since I love traveling, I would do traveling and photography, and I would sell my photographs. And that was kind of my other plan, but I don't think I would make a lot of money doing that. So there's always that issue of how do you make money doing what you want to do. But I really love to help people with their careers and connect people. That's really what is my passion. So yeah, so that's kind of my thing. But I recommend for those of you who can find scholarships or can go abroad to spend a little time abroad, because you really broadens your world, and it also helps you understand the world you're in. Like when I was living in Germany, people asked me questions that I never thought about. Like they said, so how far is it from New York to Boston? And I said, 4 hours. And they said, no, how many kilometers? And I thought, oh, I think you learn about how you think. And I realized that I was thinking always because I took a car. So I always thought about like how many hours by car. And then I realized they don't even think in miles and kilometers. I was thinking in car hours. And so like just that one question from 11-year-olds in Germany, an American that asked me would not even ask again, but they said, no, we want to know how many kilometers. So like just little questions like that help you understand how you think and how your culture is. And so that's really important also. If you can go abroad, even if it's only for a few weeks but when you go abroad, don't just try, if you can just not just be a tourist, but if you can kind of live with people or get to know them in a deeper level, that will really change you as well. So that's probably the most important thing in my life was living abroad.
Got it. We can take a couple more questions, and then we will let Joann get to us more.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm not even tired. You guys are so great.
I appreciate that then.
Hi.
Jagdish, please go ahead.
Yes. Hi, John. And that was a nice presentation.
Thank you.
And my question is, it's all about, through your experience of academics. Presently, we are working with the curriculum development to meet out the international competencies and also the professional skills which are required to meet out the international competencies. And where we always try to make the curriculum and syllabus to be more blended. Blended in the sense, this essence will have a lot of hands-on experience. Can you suggest few inputs on the curriculum?
Like to get hands-on experience?
Jagdish, you're on mute.
Jagdish, what do you mean by, are you asking for examples to get hands-on experience, or examples like for the curriculum in general, or what exactly?
I want your view on the hands-on experience part. For example, are we going in a right direction? For example, rather than reducing the teacher's talk time, we are going with the hands-on experience.
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's good. And get students, I mean, I don't know what you're teaching exactly, like what field, but like at HPI, we require every student at the bachelor's and master's level to do a project with a company. And the professor, though, it's not just they just go to the company, the professor supervises, because the professor wants certain learning from the curriculum integrated into the work with the company. But that is that's been very successful, because then when our students graduate, they go into the companies and there's not a lot of training that has to happen, because they know what it's like. They know what's expected. So that's one thing that I think is really, if you can get them to work, and if it's not in business, maybe it's I don't know what your students are studying, but if you could find them internships or companies have problems and, that they need solved. And students if you can get them to do it with your students, it's a lot cheaper than if they have to do it with, full-time employees. So maybe that's one way, but we do that in HPI. It's really important. Another thing that we do that may be useful for the curriculum is HPI has a very design thinking mindset in everything it does. So, for example, for PhD students, we don't just have the PhD students at the end of the semester report on their research. They meet every week. That might not be possible for every week, but if you have them meet every week and report on their work, then they get feedback all the time. So it's like the whole idea of fail early, fail often. Instead of spending a whole semester doing research and then finding, oh my gosh, this is terrible, I have to start all over. You're meeting regularly with other people and talking about your work, getting feedback. Maybe the professors don't all have time every week, but maybe they can meet with just the other students, where the comfort zone is, it's not as far outside. But I don't know if that's really what you're doing. But I'm all for like the hands-on, rather than like what I did tonight, just talking. I don't usually do that. Like with like design thinking, like designing your life, we have group work. We do, we mix into groups. I think that it's important, because they're not going to remember things if just you're talking all the time. They have to do. But there's different learning styles. There's experiential learning. So some people are more experiential learners. There's all different kinds of learning styles. But I think it's good for them to try that, to work. Does that? I don't know if that helps, Jagdish.
Yes, that's great to hear.
And if it's international, you can get international companies for them to do stuff, help with international companies.
Being COVID, it had actually opened up the walls that you can actually do interns and take up international projects, work from home.
Yeah.
Because earlier it was very, very tough, and even the mindsets of the industries were not open. So right now it had helped us to connect with people across the globe and also work across the globe remotely in the virtual mode. So your answer rightly actually help us also. But we are going in that direction. Jagdish asked a relevant question. Also, your answer is also right on to the right on where SNS wanted to drive it forward.
Yeah, and if they work in global teams, like if they do work in global teams, they're going to learn the intercultural skills as well, which is so important for them in the globalized world now. That if your graduates have that global team experience, they're going to build empathy with people from different cultures. They're going to be hired by, at the higher levels. So, and they'll move up the ladder faster, because the people that are very empathetic and get along better with other people, they get promotions faster.
Got it.
Can we have one more question before we wind up?
So, hello, ma'am.
Hello.
So, my name is Shyam and I'm from Department of Automobile Engineering. So, I do have a question from my own personal experience. So, where you know that at certain times, when we do team leading at our college, so there'll be a lot of disagreements and inconvenience about the conversation. So I myself will be the one who's in a state of mind to have a conclusion. So in order to get the solution. So how do I even come up with the critical solution to overcome this?
Wait, so you're So you're asking, like, when you're working with groups and you want to reach a conclusion, how do you get to the conclusion? I don't understand exactly.
Yeah, exactly what you told, ma'am.
So how do you help your team get to the conclusion?
Yes, ma'am.
If there are different opinions.
Okay. Oh, that's not easy. That's a hard one. One of the things that we do in design thinking, for those of you who are a couple of you are from design thinking here, we use a timer, and we say we use a timer, and we only have until this time. So we need to we need to get a conclusion by this time, and so you force people to compromise when you're limited in time. That's one way to do it. You don't, not make it about yourself, but make it about, or you try to find, what are we trying to do? What's our common goal? And, this is where we want to get to, and this is where we are. How can we kind of compromise and get to this point? And we only have, 5 minutes to do it. Like that's the whole design thinking thing. And that maybe that would help you, but it's not an easy question. But that's in design thinking. We believe in interdisciplinary teams. We work with interdisciplinary teams because you want to have the different opinions because they make you more innovative. And also we have certain assumptions that we have in our heads. We assume certain things, and many of us don't realize that other people don't have those assumptions. They think differently. And so sometimes you need those different opinions. And you don't want to beat them down either. You want people to talk. You don't want to say, quiet them down. So, but people do have to compromise. But it's a really tough question.
Well, madam, this is not actually a question. It is a note of appreciation. You have truly come out of your comfort zone in explaining to faculty, students, and all the fraternity to develop meaningful relationships while networking and also sustain them with the design thinking skills in building lives. Thank you very much, madam, for all that. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you very much, ma'am. The session was very informative and insightful.
Well, thank
so
you.
now I call upon Dr. Babu Devasinabadi, Director, Center for Creativity, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thanks, Jagdish. First, big thanks goes to Dr. Joann. When the meeting was scheduled, my boss, Dr. Nalin, told me it's 9 o'clock in the morning. When I referred to the time chart, I said maybe there was an error in timing, and I called them back, saying if she could be running into the middle of the night when we do this session. But he said that's what she is comfortable with. So I thought, that's the best way. I've never thought of delivering a session in the middle of the night. So that's a fantastic demonstration of stretching your comfort zone yourself. And we are very happy about it. Thank you very much for taking so much efforts and time for all of us here. Normally, during webinars, people, steal time and do small bits of jobs here and there while the speakers are on. But I should admit that I could see most of them were glued to the screen because the content you delivered added with the energy was, like a punch. We enjoyed it. So a special thank you to you. If I have to summarize all the learnings of the meeting, then I might have to talk another half an hour. So I'll spare the trouble and say that, we have noted a lot of points. The best for the students, which I was looking at, was like informational interview. That's a very fantastic approach you have suggested, and I think our students will be able to utilize it shortly. Maybe I'll get back to you on the success stories of that. And the 5-year plan, that's another wonderful idea. Though there were a lot of other ideas, I just thought I'll just take 2 samples to tell you that, we feel this, we will use it the students, and maybe take your help when you're free and do one on that. So thank you for being with us. Next, I thank Dr. Nalin Vimal Kumar, our visionary technical director, who connects us with the right people, wonderful people, and helps us set the vision for the group of institutions. So Nalinji, thank you very much. This was a very fantastic session we had today. I also
thank you, Nalin.
Pleasure is mine.
and also our chairman and correspondent madam for any leadership initiatives. They are extremely supportive. They sanction all those programs immediately. So my due thanks go to our a team of trustees. Then I also personally thank each one of you who brought fantastic questions and kept the session live. So all the leaders on the board and the students here who made this wonderful. My special thanks goes to the ERP and the monitoring team. I was surprised this was one meeting where we did not have too much of mic interactions or noise interactions. I think you guys have been on a very high alert, nipping all the sounds before they could disturb the meeting. I'm very much thankful of that. And to the organizing team, the students, Srijit and others who have been here, it was wonderful. So Joann, I'm closing this with a big thank you to you once again. And we think we could take this partnership into a future level. If you come to Coimbatore, then we should have a team meeting with us.
Okay, great. I would love that.
And also we invite you to India and also to SNS.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
We will be happy to host you, Joann.
Thank you. So it would be an honor. Can I just say one final thing I forgot to mention during the 5-year plan? If you do a 5-year plan, don't just write words, do pictures too, because the thinking and the drawing is really, really important, as design thinkers will tell you, you know.
Yeah. Thank you very much again. Thanks for your time and have a good night's sleep.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and thank you everyone, and Nalin especially for inviting me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, everyone, have a good rest of the day. And yeah, I guess
thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Joann. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye. Bye.